I will now give the floor to Margit. Give her a warm welcome.
Thank you so much. So nice to be here with all of you. So nice that you came here to share this lunch. And indeed, a life in peace, that's what it's all about in this lunch lecture. What does that mean, a life in peace? And how can you live such a life in peace? Especially these days, where a lot of people deal with stress, feelings of the fear of missing out. There's so much to achieve in life, so much expectations, either from yourself or from others. And how do you then live a life in peace? First, a bit about myself. My name is Margit van Tuijl, and I work as a life coach at Tint. And together with the rest of my Tint team, one of my colleagues is sitting over there, that's Marja, she's also life coach. And we have some student assistants who also are very active in organizing events. And our activities are all about personal development and the questions that you can have in life. Like, who am I? What do I really find important in life? What are my dreams, my passions, and how can I realize them? Questions like those. And for instance, here you see us at the intro market. This was the kind of workshop that we gave in social interaction. How do you start a conversation? How do you keep it going? Because relationships are so important aspect of your life. I have a Christian background. That means when I was a child, I was raised atheist or agnostic. But myself, I found my way into Christianity. And I also studied theology, which is very much about the meaning of life. Nevertheless, at Tint, we work with people from all different kind of life views and religions, backgrounds, because we always focus on the questions, and we help students to find their own answers. Besides my work as a life coach, I have a tiny side job in the hospital, where I also have conversations with patients about what they are going through in their life. Apart from that, I'm married and I have 2 children. I love to dance, it's one of my hobbies. And I also like to spend a time with friends, with family. And on top of that, I'm quite perfectionistic. So I always want to do more, I always want to develop myself and achieve more. So if you take that all into account, you might understand that I myself also know those feelings of being stressed. And I also know the feeling of fear of missing out. If I'm not attending a certain evening, oh, that's very bad. I can feel guilty about it. So a great source of help to me in all that stress feelings is this woman. She's called Brené Brown. Who of you have ever heard of her? I see some hands here, over there. Here, not so much. You should look her up on the internet. She has some amazing TED Talks, and she has written very inspiring books. She's a researcher coming from the US, and she does research on the topic of vulnerability. Because she also says we are living in a society in which people want to achieve more, people want to live a perfect life, people want to attend everything that is going on, but it's simply too much. So she encourages people to also be vulnerable and also dare to share your vulnerable feelings with others. Because if you share with others what you struggle with, it gives so much more space to be yourself. especially in a time with social media, where everyone wants to show a perfect picture of yourself. Also share the human side. What are your struggles? What are you going through? And she says, if you suffer from stress, these quotes can be a medicine for you. To every now and then say to yourself, I am good enough. I do enough. I have enough. As a medicine against that feeling of I always have to do more and achieve more, etc. So Brené Brown, with her thoughts, is a big source of help when I feel stressed, fear of missing out, guilty feelings. So now I'm so curious how that works for you. Bless you. When you feel stress, what helps you then to regain your feeling of peace, to find some relaxation? Is there anyone who wants to share a bit about that? What helps you? Can be either a thought or an activity. Yeah, please?
Sports.
Sports.
Yeah.
Very well. What kind of sports?
Anything highly physical, like putting like all the stress like into movements or anything. Right?
Yeah, let the energy out.
Yeah.
And the good thing usually is when you move your body, your mind becomes a little bit more quiet. Or you can let go of your thoughts.
Yeah, usually like you're occupied with like something else.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
You have some distraction. Yeah. Wonderful. Anyone else? What helps you when you feel stressed? Back over there?
I like to bake when I'm stressed.
To bake? Oh, wow. I think that's a pleasure for the people around you. Yeah, wonderful. Anyone else? What helps you when you feel stressed? Over there? Take a nap. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Just during the day? Sometimes. Yeah, it can be really powerful, a power nap. It's not for nothing that they call it like that. Great. Cool. Well, as I said, Brené Brown is one of my sources of help. But there's more. When I was at the age of around 17, I felt very depressed. My parents were in a divorce, and also I had very much worries, many worries about the world. The climate back then already was an issue, and I really suffered from what animals went through, what people went through, and it was all very heavy on my mind. And luckily, I had the courage to share my vulnerability with a good friend of mine. So I shared my worries, I shared my troubles, which was already a relief. And then she said to me, "It's so nice that you share this with me, but you should also share it with God." I thought, what? Share it with God? I mean, I didn't believe in God. I wasn't raised that way. Share it with God? Yeah. She says, no matter if you whisper or talk or scream it out loud, just share it with God. I thought, oh, well, okay, why not give it a try? Nothing to lose. So that evening, I was laying on my bed and I closed my eyes and I whispered, "God, I don't have a clue if you exist. I don't have a clue if you are listening to me or if you can help me out, but these are my troubles." And I started speaking up. At first it felt very strange, but I thought maybe I should continue. So I did that for a week, and the first week it really felt like a discipline. I do this for my friend because she told me. But after a week, I noticed that taking such a moment in the evening for myself, to close the door, to close my eyes, to have a look on the inside of myself, what's actually going on, really felt like a relief. So after a week, I didn't want to miss it anymore. So I kept on going and praying every night until this day, actually. It has become a very basic point of peace in my life. Nevertheless, at some point, someone said to me, that's also a quote from the Bible, by the way, let always be the gratefulness a part of your prayers. And that was not what I did before. I only shared my troubles with God. But that person said, also share your gratitude. And I thought, well, let's give it a try. Let's see. So from that moment on, I started my prayers with mentioning a couple of things that I felt grateful for in my life. And that could be simply the fact that it was a sunny day, or a special encounter that I had with someone, or a new inspiring idea that popped up in my mind. And after doing that for a while, I noticed that it changed my mindset. I was not only focused on the issues, the worries, everything that was so heavy, but also focused on the goodness, the nice things in my life. And it was as if my mind was opening up for all those good things. I had more eye for it. I was more open towards the good things in my life. So that really worked very strongly. And after some times, I thought, well, maybe I should not only pray for myself. I should also pray for others. So from that moment on, I also started to mention my husband, my children. I always mention the students. So you are always in my prayers. And I always mention one specific person that caught my attention that day. That I think, oh, that person can need some extra strength. Then I just mention the name of that person. And I'm sure that God knows what that person needs right at this moment. So nowadays, my prayers consist of those three things: gratitude, sharing vulnerability, and a prayer for others. And I noticed also, after a while, that for me, praying also gave me the feeling that I am part of a bigger whole. There is, in my experience, a kind of listening ear out there that I can ask for help. I also feel part of the bigger life with a big L, or the bigger love with a big L, part of the universe. And that is so nice that you see that happening in all the bigger religions. When you think of the Jewish religion, the prayer is very important. Muslims, they pray 5 times a day. It's also this connection with the bigger whole, with Allah, of course, for Muslims. Hindu, the same, in a different way, but also being part of this bigger whole. And also for Buddhists, it's not the praying, it's more the meditation. Meditating for Buddhists is a way of also feeling this connection with what is going on inside of themselves and with the bigger picture of life. And of course, also a lot of people who call themselves atheists or agnostics, they also have this benefit of meditation. And I think prayer and meditation are not the same, but you might call them brother and sister, or they go hand in hand. They have similarities as well. And an interesting aspect is that also Jesus, every now and then, went up to a mountain to pray. So also Jesus searched these moments of peace, of connection with his Father. And I thought, why not read one of those parts of the Bible in which he does that, to have a closer look. So you find your this booklet on your table. It is the Gospel of Mark. And if you open it on the page 6, very much in the beginning, you see this paragraph halfway the page, which says, Jesus prays in a solitary place. And I will read. Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up. He left the house and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. Simon and his companions went to look for him. And when they found him, they exclaimed, "Everyone is looking for you." And Jesus replied, "Let us go somewhere else, to the nearby villages, so that I can preach there also. That is why I have come." So he traveled throughout Galilee, preaching in their synagogues and driving out demons. And what I find fascinating about this paragraph is you see that also Jesus needs that moment of quietness, of peace, of prayer to recharge his batteries, actually. And that's very understandable because so many people want him, need him. There's so much work to do. So you see in this paragraph that the moment he tries to find this peace, people are already shouting at him, "We need you, we need you, you need to do more work." And that's so recognizable. If I myself search for a peaceful moment, then these are more the voices in my head. I think, but there's so much work. There are so many emails that I should answer. I should do something else. So there's this tension between this longing of having such a moment of peace and the outer world that is trying to catch my attention, maybe your attention, that wants to distract us from it. It's always about finding that balance. Well, then I have another question for you. If you think of living a life in peace for yourself, what could then help you to live a life in peace at this moment or maybe further in the future? What could be ways to support that? Yeah.
A solution to every exam until the end of the bachelor.
Oh, that would be wonderful. A solution to every exam. Yeah. You can pray for that. I don't know if God supplies that. Yeah. And how about the thought that even if you don't pass an exam, you are still good enough?
Well, perhaps, but the exam doesn't say it.
The exam is still there and the stress is still there. Yeah. Would be wonderful. Wonderful solution. Yeah. Thanks. Anyone else? What would help you to live a life in peace?
I have a question.
Oh, that's also fine.
What life in peace means? Because for me, being stressed, being excited, having stuff to do all the time, that makes life exciting and that makes life better for me. What is life in peace?
It's very good that you bring up this question, because I guess what a life of peace means for you can be something else than what it means for me. And if you say this stress and this energy that it brings is also part for you of happiness, maybe?
Yep.
So for you, a life without stress wouldn't be a life in peace, maybe? Yeah, or a life of peace without any stress would be boring, maybe,
That's it.
for you. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think it can be very personal, although there's always this balance between until to what extent is the stress healthy? It makes you feel concentrated, it gives you the right energy, but there's always a kind of limit. When it goes over that, then stress becomes a burden and too much. And do you recognize that?
Yes and no.
Tell me.
The no part,
Yeah?
I don't feel I have reached a moment when stress is too much.
So you can deal with it. Yeah, nice. That sounds very healthy. Yeah, yeah, that's great. Yeah. Nice, thank you for sharing. Yeah, so that's a good point. Stress is not always bad. Stress can also be positive, to a certain extent. Yeah. Anyone else? What does help you to live a life in peace? Or what could help you? Yeah, please.
For me, it would probably be unplugging from the grid for a while and going on an adventure in nature, I would say. So hiking or cycling to places I've never been before.
Going in nature
Yeah.
and being offline for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. What do you like so much about being in nature?
It's a sense of calm. It's a sense of solitary escape from the societal system and witnessing an everlasting cycle that's been going on for years.
Yeah,
Really recognizing that, I think, brings a sense of serenity.
yeah. That's nice that you mentioned this cycle of life that you are part of. Yeah. And that can give you the feeling that your daily troubles are not that huge as you tend to think. Yeah, yeah. But the time, yeah. Oh yeah, and there might be other questions from you to me. So I think it's good to give some floor for those.
Yeah, that's, I have like two questions that are quite similar, so I can ask them at once.
Yeah?
Why do we need a God to talk to when talking about your worries out loud, or to a friend do the same? Or is the Christian God necessary for prayer to be helpful? Or is mindful meditation or introspection moment equally helpful?
Wow, these are more questions in one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of the same background, I think.
Yeah.
So.
Let's pick the first one first. Why should you need a listening God when you can also talk with a good friend? I would say if you have such a good friend or such good friends with whom you really can share also your secrets, you are a blessed person. And really take good care of those friendships because they are so valuable. What I notice in my prayers that I sometimes give words to feelings that I even didn't know myself I had them. For instance, that I say honestly to God, today I felt so jealous. And then I think, oh yeah, to be honest, I really felt jealous today. But I first had to admit it to myself. And maybe if I have a lot of courage, I have some good friends, for sure, but still I need some courage to admit to my friends that I'm jealous on a certain person. And I'm so sure that God is not afraid of any feelings. So if you feel anger or fear, or you can just share it with God, because He knows it all. He already knows it before you speak up. So for me, that's the plus point of having a listening ear in God. Yeah. But there was another question to it, the meditation and the prayer. Can it be equally helpful?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good question. I like both, so I also do meditation, also with Tint, in collaboration with the organization Enter the Now. We have organized several mindfulness breaks, so I also like the meditation a lot. The difference for me is that when I pray, I really direct my words to a listening ear. So I also say, can you give me some wisdom? Or can you give me strength or new insights? When I meditate, I mainly close my eyes and I also be aware of all my feelings, also the troublesome feelings. But then more I try to look at all those feelings without any judgment, with a little distance, in order that their feelings do not have the grip on me, but I can just let them be. So that for me is the difference. So I like to do it both. And for some people, the praying is a way more stronger force in their life. And for other people, they really prefer the meditation. So I also think this is a matter of trying out. And by the way, some people say, yeah, but meditating is not Christian. But that's not true. There's a whole tradition within Christianity of monks and also the sisters, the female monks, who have prayed throughout the centuries. So also meditation has also Christian roots. So that might be good to know.
Okay, I have one other question, and then we're gonna finish it up because
Yeah.
we have also to leave this room
Yeah.
at a certain time. So why do you have chosen for Christianity specifically and not another religion like Hinduism or Judaism or Islam?
Very good question. Yeah. I already told you, when I was about 17 years old, my parents went into a divorce. And for that reason, my whole world started to shake. And I thought, if my family house is not that safe anymore, what can provide me this safety in life? And from that point, I started looking in all different kind of religions. And I dived into everything. And at some point I thought this is such a passion of mine to search for these kind of answers that I really want to make my study out of it. And then I thought, well, why not pick the Christian theology? Because maybe in the end I do not really believe it, but still I will know more about the roots of my own culture. Because I thought I can study Buddhism, but I will never know it from my toes, like someone who is born and raised in India. That was my reflection by that time. So for that reason, I dived into the Christian theology, and I loved it, and I also started going to churches, and I really thought at some point, this is where I feel at home. So that is how it went for me. And if you ask me what is the plus point for me within Christianity above other religions, I would say I really like the idea in Christianity that there is a loving God and that you are loved as a child of God, no matter which mistakes you make. So there's a lot of grace in the Christian religion, where there in a lot of other religions there are so many rules. You should do this, you should that in order to be a good believer. And of course, that can also be helpful for people, but for me, it is a great source of inspiration and hope that I'm already good enough as I am, as a starting point. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for your talk.
You're welcome.
Enjoyed the talk. Yeah, I'm gonna skip through those slides because we're kind of out of time. But if you are still having questions, and I can imagine that you have, tonight we will have an alpha evening. We will reflect on the week, and you can have a lot of space to ask questions to the people present. It's tonight at 8 at the Dommelstraat 6. So be welcome, and if you want to know more about alpha, which is like a course of 10 weeks. Every Monday there will be an evening in which you can learn more about Christianity, and you can ask all your questions. The first speaker will also be Margit, so then you can also...
Yay! Hope to see you all there.
Ask your questions again. So if you want more info about that, you can follow them on Instagram, and there are also some cards on the table with some contact details. They are in Dutch, but if you want to know more information in English, You can also come to one of the people with the purple shirts of the Passion Week and also with the blue ones. Then if there are also other possibilities to ask still questions, you can join us for a coffee in Hubble later this evening if you want to talk a bit further. Or you can read also the books that are on your table. You are allowed to take them with you. They are both in English and in Dutch, so if you have not the right one on your table, you can look on another table because they are in both languages are there. And lastly, I would please ask you to fill in the evaluation form. You can do it either online via bit.ly/pw evaluation or on the cards on your table. We would very much appreciate it if you now take a minute to fill that in. And then I would very thank you for your attention and hopefully see you around. Enjoy your day.